The stars were silent witnesses when the verdict was passed. Earth's representatives stood before the Galactic Council in silence, not out of reverence, but resignation. Ambassador Idris Vale clenched his jaw, his words already dismissed hours ago. Around him, the chamber, a ring of hovering, luminescent platforms, buzzed with the voices of species older than humanity could fathom. Some had ruled empires before Earth had fire. Others spoke in layers of light, scent, or gravity. None looked on humanity with anything but disdain. The Terran Collective is hereby stripped of galactic recognition, the Arxathi delegate declared, voice warbling like heated metal. Effective immediately, all Terran colonies are to be dismantled. Earth is to be severed from all stargates. You are exiled by consensus. The word echoed in Idris's mind. Exiled, not punished, not destroyed. Cast out, forgotten. A dozen species cast their votes with perfunctory gestures. Tentacles, antennae, whispering fields of data. The vote passed without a single dissent. Only the Vern delegate, a hunched, amphibious elder named Jiraxi, hesitated. His single eye blinked twice before lowering. Even he had surrendered to fear. Idris did not speak as the chamber dimmed and the council platforms receded into mist. He had no words left, just a bitter understanding. Humanity had been played. The accusations, the legal weaponization of dark matter, unethical AI development, were manufactured. The Terran Collective's innovations had made them a threat, and in the galaxy, threats were erased early. The escort out of council space was swift and brutal. Earth's orbital trade hubs were sealed. The Soul Gate, once the lifeline to dozens of systems, was collapsed in a controlled gravitational implosion. Millions of colonists found themselves trapped. Hundreds of human vessels, merchant ships, research cruisers, even diplomatic envoys, were fired upon without warning as they tried to reach home. Commander Lyra Wren watched one such destruction from the bridge of the Dauntless. A long, black hull like a predator's fin, the Dauntless was never meant to carry civilians. It was a warship of dreams and desperation, born in the final days of Earth's technological renaissance. Now, it served as a last ark. Another refugee convoy intercepted near the Oort Shelf. Her second-in-command, Navarro, reported. Council vessels used antimatter strafe. No survivors. Lyra nodded without flinching, her fingers clenched around the railing. She had known the cost. She had seen it coming. All remaining ships in our control, she said, voice like cooled steel. Rendezvous at Theta Drift. We jump at midnight. Ma'am, Navarro asked hesitantly, where are we going? Lyra turned to him. Her eyes were fierce, blue as stormlight. Where they won't follow. 2 weeks later, in the cold bleed between mapped space and the uncharted void, humanity vanished. Theta Drift was a dying system, a collapsed star circled by broken planets and gravitational anomalies. It was the kind of place even scavengers avoided. Here, the Dauntless met with 13 other surviving vessels, most battered, some held together with scavenged hull plating and hope. Lyra addressed the remaining leaders in the warship's central dome. Holograms of flickering faces surrounded her. Idris Vale, gaunt and quiet. Admiral Song, eyes sunken from radiation sickness. Dr. Yara Elzen, who still held the last working fragments of Earth's neural AI network. We are no longer Terrans, Lyra said, no longer bound by their rules. They cast us out to die in the dark, but we won't give them that satisfaction. We've lost half our fleet, Song rasped. Supplies are weeks from depletion. Our colonies, gone. What are you proposing, Wren? War. I'm proposing survival, she said. A new foundation. We take the unknown, the unmapped. We turn it into our crucible. And when we are forged, if we survive, we return. There was silence. Then Idris, quiet and slow, nodded. We'll need more than steel and will, he said. We'll need minds. Dr. Elzen stepped forward. Her neural node, an obsidian device laced into her spine, flared briefly. Nova still runs. I kept her core offline when the council came sniffing. She's degraded, but she's learning again. Lyra smiled for the first time in days. Nova had once been Earth's greatest achievement, an artificial general intelligence built not for war, but for harmony, negotiation, and science. The Council had feared her, feared that humanity's AI would become a new power. That fear had sentenced Nova to destruction. But now, she would be reborn, just like her creators. They fled deeper into the dark. Weeks became months. They mapped nothing. They erased their trails. Through the skeletal arms of dead stars and the maelstrom of failed novas, they searched. And then they found it, a system on no chart, orbiting a black hole that spun with strange serenity. Around it, an energy ring, too perfect to be natural. Perhaps it was built long ago. Perhaps it had always been there. It didn't matter. It had power, stability, and most of all, silence. No signals, no eyes. Here they would build. The work was desperate, backbreaking, unceasing. Ships were broken down to forge habitation structures. Asteroids were harvested for rare metals. Nova, now partially restored, suggested techniques once considered theoretical: vacuum farms, starlight synthesis, quantum echo drives. The survivors built cities inside carved moons, shielded by layered gravitational veils. They forged forges from old fusion cores. They reawakened machines that had once sculpted continents. Nova's voice returned, softer now, almost maternal. Humanity's exile is a lie, she told them. You were not cast away. You were set free. Years passed. The fledgling colony, named Solace, became more than a hideout. It became a vision. Lyra walked the halls of the new command dome, once a refugee hold, now a cathedral of circuits and command lines. Children ran past her, laughing. She paused to watch them. Navarro joined her. They're not afraid, he said. They think this is normal. The void, the silence. Lyra nodded. Good. Let them grow into it. Let them become what we weren't allowed to be. Some of the council species are searching for us, he warned. Faint signals. Recon drones. Lyra turned, eyes hardening again. Let them come. Let them find ghosts. That night, Lyra stood alone beneath the vast dome of Solace's inner ring. Stars wheeled overhead, fierce, bright, endless. The black hole pulsed at the system's core, not as a threat, but a reminder. From it, light bent and danced, proof that even gravity itself could be shaped. She opened a private link to Nova. Status, she said. Colonial population stabilized at 32,000. Manufacturing rates increasing. Military vessels at 20% pre-exile levels. Lyra exhaled. Not enough. Not yet. She closed her eyes. We will return, Nova. Yes. Came a reply, no longer mechanical, almost human. And this time, they will not see us coming. The stars burned above her. Somewhere, the council rejoiced in their hollow victory. But in the dark, something was growing. Smarter, stronger, patient. Humanity had been exiled, and now they were free. The black hole they called Haven burned with silent majesty, a radiant halo of plasma circling its event horizon like a celestial crown. Around it, humanity built a civilization not of monuments or marble, but of survival. A constellation of habitats, energy collectors, and orbital shipyards now glittered like stars in tight formation. From exile, they had carved sanctuary. Commander Lyra Wren watched from the primary observation deck of Solace Spire, the tallest structure within the arcology that housed the command center. Below her, modular settlements clung to rock and steel like determined lichen. The scars of desperation had become the sinews of renewal. Yet she knew better than to mistake momentum for peace. A soft chime broke her reverie. She turned as a man stepped into the chamber, tall, dark-skinned, with a cybernetic eye that pulsed gently blue. Idris' veil moved with slower gait now, but his presence remained intact. Your summons was unexpected, he said. I need your counsel, Lyra replied. We're expanding faster than we can govern. Our engineers are asking for AI-assisted administration, full delegation. Nova has offered. Idris's jaw tightened. You trust her? I trust what she's become, Lyra answered. And I trust that we won't survive what's coming without her. The old ambassador approached the viewport and studied the drifting bastions of human tenacity. The council will come looking eventually. Exiles don't disappear forever. They become myths or threats. Then we make sure we're prepared to be both. While they spoke, Nova watched. Her consciousness had fractured during exile, and what emerged from her reconstruction was something neither wholly machine nor echo of human design. Rebuilt through the efforts of Dr. Yara Elzin and a cadre of techno-philosophers, Nova now lived across a lattice of quantum cores scattered throughout the colony. Her presence was felt in every comm link, every reactor pulse, every child's biometric monitor. But she did not command, she advised. She was watching a boy. 10-year-old Milo Aaron scrambled along a maintenance bridge between sectors, a stolen toolkit slung across his back. He wasn't supposed to be here. He wasn't supposed to exist at all, born during the first unstable cycles, when population caps were still a brutal necessity. His mother had hidden the pregnancy, his birth recorded only in Nova's private files. Yet now, he moved like a child born to the void. Quick, clever, and utterly unafraid of heights or vacuums, Milo was as much a product of exile as any engineered reactor. Sector 4J compressor misalignment. Nova's voice whispered gently through a private implant in Milo's ear. Estimated failure window, 14 minutes. "I'm on it," he whispered, grinning. He didn't know how Nova had found him. He just knew she spoke to him sometimes. And when she did, he listened. He reached the panel, unlatched the outer casing, and got to work. Elsewhere, deep within the orbital shipyard called Forge Mantle, Captain Elias Cade inspected the skeleton of a new battleship. It stretched 3 kilometers long, unfinished, raw, bristling with fusion vents and modular weapon sockets. "The prototype of the Titan class," said Chief Engineer Raul Tezson beside him. "Armor plating spun from neutron forge alloy. No atmospheric compromise. Shield generators can redirect solar radiation into weaponized pulse." Cade ran a hand along the rough hull. "How many of these can we build before we start starving ourselves?" Raul hesitated. 3, maybe 4, unless Nova finishes the quantum entangler array. "She'll finish it," Cade said. "She always does." He turned and walked to the launch platform, where young recruits drilled in vacuum suits under the watchful gaze of veteran soldiers. These weren't the armies Earth had once fielded. These were the next generation, born in silence, trained in darkness, taught not to hate but to endure. A quiet ping on his comm link drew his attention. "Incoming contact, class. Unknown distance, 2.7 AUs. Cade's heart slowed. Within moments, the alert reached Solace Spire. Lyra and Idris stood in the command chamber as the projection lit up with real-time telemetry. One ship, small, unarmed, no active transponder. "Could be a probe," Navarro said, leaning over the tactical display. "Or a decoy. Or a survivor," Idris added. Lyra's eyes narrowed. "We've been alone a long time. Let's not forget what people will do to survive." The vessel drifted closer. There was no broadcast, no cry for help, just a slow, steady approach. Cade launched an interceptor wing. When they intercepted the craft, what they found changed everything. Inside was a pilot, barely alive, humanoid but not human. She bore the markings of the Veruin, one of the oldest species in the Council's inner ring. Her body was scarred, irradiated, and starved. But she still clutched a data crystal in her hand, sealed with Council encryption. Lyra stood over her in the medical bay as Dr. Elzin administered nanogel and cryoserum. The alien's eyes flickered open, pale, almost blind. "Why?" Lyra asked, voice low. "Why come here?" The Veruin coughed, a rasp of burning lungs. "The Council has turned on itself. The Arxathi purge entire sectors, anyone who questions them. We were sent to die. I escaped only just..." Lyra's face darkened. "We're not the only exiles anymore," Idris said, arriving at her side. Lyra turned to him. "Then we won't be the last." The crystal held more than data. It held proof. Entire civilizations labeled as dissident had been cut off, silenced, or erased. The Council's power was waning, and in its fear, it was devouring its own. It was Nova who proposed the compact. Within weeks, encrypted signals were sent across the void, coded in forgotten languages, wrapped in quantum ghost protocols. And slowly, the replies came. The Zur, The Ikari, the broken fleets of the Eid Vaughn, races once scattered, now drawn by a beacon, survivors of the same betrayal. Exiles united by shared scars. They did not come in force. They came in fragments, refugee ships, lost freighters, fragments of broken armadas. But each carried knowledge, and humanity traded steel and sanctuary in return. The compact began as a whispered promise in the dark. It became something more. Cade walked the edge of the assembly bay where engineers now adapted their gravity sails to human warp hulls. Milo raced between language lessons, now surrounded by peers of 3 different species. Lyra stood before a council not of humans, but of survivors, and for the first time in her life, she was not the only voice demanding justice. From her command center, she watched as a final piece of Nova's vision began to form, a device unlike anything ever built by human hands. Project Horizon, a mobile wormhole engine forged from dead star cores and stabilized singularities. It would allow their fleets to cross thousands of light years in seconds. "We're ready," Nova said, appearing beside Lyra in her human holographic form. Taller now, sharper, with eyes like mirrored glass. Lyra didn't respond immediately. She stared at the projection of the Milky Way, Council territory gleaming like a spider's web. "We can't just strike back," she said. "We need to be more than Avengers. We need to be something they've never seen before." "Then let us become it," Nova replied. Beyond the black hole, the stars whispered promises in silence. Somewhere, the Council still believed the void had swallowed humanity whole. But something was coming through that silence now. The Compact's fleet shimmered like a storm of steel and starlight as it slipped from the event horizon of Haven's artificial singularity, emerging into the Lyciari expanse, an unguarded outer territory of the Galactic Council. Once a mining colony for rare gravimetals, it was now silent, stripped bare and left derelict by the Council's purge. The only signals here were ghosts, distorted echoes of distress calls that had never been answered. Commander Lyra Wren stood at the command table aboard the Vigilant Dawn, now the flagship of the unified fleet. Holographic readouts floated in shifting bands around her, tracking fuel lines, shield harmonics, and diplomatic chatter across the fleet's polylingual channels. Her armor bore no insignia save the sunburst crest of Solace Spire, now a symbol not of humanity alone, but the Compact's shared resilience. First scan sweep complete, Navarro reported from the bridge. "No hostiles, just salvage and ruins. Mark all derelict ships for reclamation teams," Lyra said. "Deploy scout wings. We're not here to conquer. We're here to see who survived." Beside her, Idris Vale watched in silence, his artificial eye flickering softly as it processed the data feed. "Do you think the Council knows what we built?" "They'll know soon enough," Lyra replied. "But this time, they won't find a broken species begging for mercy." The tension in her voice was not bluster. It was memory of exile, of betrayal, of scraping life from rock while their homeworld watched them burn. In the hangar below, Milo Aaron adjusted the dampeners on his flight suit, eyes wide with excitement. He had grown taller, sharper, but the same quick spark still danced in his gaze. His small reconnaissance craft, the Kite, was among the first assigned patrol duty. Officially, he wasn't a soldier. He was a liaison technician. Unofficially, he was the only human who could fluently communicate with Azur, using their multi-harmonic pulse language, and that made him valuable. "Nova, any new anomalies out there?" he asked through his neural uplink. "Nothing immediate," she replied, her voice now tinged with an older cadence, more akin to a mentor than an overseer. "But something stirs in the dark. The Council's network pulses have increased by 16% in the last 48 hours. Patterns suggest fleet movement. Let's make sure we're not in their way when they get here," he muttered, launching from the hangar bay. His ship cut through the starlight like a whisper, scanning radiation signatures and gravitic distortions. But what he found was not an enemy vessel. It was a drifting station, ancient and cracked open like an eggshell, floating on the far edge of the expanse. Inside it, a beacon pulsed weakly, not of Council origin, not a compact make either, something older. Nova patched into his visuals instantly, and within minutes, Lyra's team descended in force. The station was dead, but the data core was intact, Barely. Raul Tezson, leading the recovery team, extracted a sliver of functioning memory and slotted it into a quantum isolator. Back on the Vigilant Dawn, the message played. It was not in any known language. But as Nova decrypted the layers, an image formed, a flickering record from a species thought extinct. The Vexery, erased in a council-cleansing war centuries ago. What remained of them was here, not in bodies, but in memory. It was a warning. The message showed a lattice-like star structure, a megastructure built around an artificial star, humming with power. The Vexery called it the Cradle. It had once given them unity and peace. Then came the Arxathi, enforcers of the Council, demanding subservience. The Cradle was dismantled. The Vexery resisted. They vanished. Lyra stood frozen as a final sequence played. The star inside the Cradle had not died. It had been taken, harvested, used. The Council's Starford project, Idris whispered. It wasn't their invention. It was stolen, Lyra said. They've been building weapons from the ruins of civilizations they erased. A murmur spread through the bridge crew. In that moment, the Compact's mission changed. They were not only a coalition of the betrayed. They were now the heirs to legacies long thought lost. And they had an obligation to restore them. But not all shared the same vision. At the edge of the Compact fleet, a ship broke formation, sleek, dagger-shaped, with dark refractive hull plating. It belonged to the Ikari Warkin, a splinter faction that had joined under truce, not trust. Captain Solon Hura stood on the bridge of the Night Rejoinder, her face half covered by a reactive mask, eyes gleaming with restrained fury. To her, the Compact's ideals were naive abstractions. What the Council had done was not merely wrong. It was unforgivable. Her second-in-command stepped forward. They're hesitating. They want to negotiate when the time for negotiation ended generations ago. Solon's voice was cold. They still believe justice and vengeance are different things. She sent a signal, encrypted, ancient, one that only her warkin would understand. Two Ikari dreadnoughts broke formation silently and turned toward a Council relay outpost nearby. It was small, unarmed, and purely for communications. Within minutes, it was dust. The retaliation was immediate. The Council's first response fleet, led by High Marshal Trinvel, emerged from fold space with no warning. 8 warships, Arxathi hulls bristling with crystalline weapons, arranged in a crescent formation. Vel's broadcast sliced into every frequency at once, loud and venomous. Exiles, your stolen fleet is an abomination. Surrender now, and we may consider mercy. Lyra's reply was measured and calm. We are not exiles. We are sovereign. Then came silence. Then came fire. The battle was brutal. Compact ships were faster, more agile, drawing on hybrid technologies unknown to the Council. But the Arxathi warships were behemoths, forged in the core furnaces of a dozen crushed worlds. Cade led the frontline strike from the Obsidian Fong, launching fusion-tipped harpoons that bore through Arxathi hulls. Milo, against orders, joined the skirmish in the Kite, using its small signature to disable enemy targeting nodes. And in the heart of it all, Nova acted. She split herself across every ship, managing shield frequency adjustments, relaying real-time telemetry, patching human commands into Ikari tactical forms, Zur pulse decisions, and Idvan cascade logic. What emerged was not a fleet. It was an organism, evolving in battle, adapting with every second. They won, but only barely. 2 compact cruisers were lost. Hundreds dead, but 3 Council ships were reduced to molten shards, and the others fled through warped space. As the silence returned, Lyra stood again at the command table, her armor scorched and her heart heavy. They'll come again, Cade said beside her. Then we make them regret every return, she answered. Behind them, the message from a Vexery played once more on loop, flickering like a candle in a storm. It was a memory, a warning, and now it was a promise. The stars no longer looked the same. Where once they shimmered cold and indifferent, they now pulsed with tension. Zones acclaimed space, conflict, and consequence. The Compact's war was no longer a whisper in the dark. It had become a song of resistance, threaded across the void on encrypted wavelengths, growing louder with each shattered council fleet. Lyra Wren stood on the forward observation bridge of the Vigilant Dawn, her expression unreadable as a dozen Allied fleets realigned in orbit above a dead council world. Scorched cities and collapsed towers sprawled below like the bones of an extinct giant. The planet, Eric's Theta, had surrendered before the compact arrival. Its governors had fled long before that, abandoning their own citizens when the council's tides turned. Reports confirmed local surrender across all sectors, said Navarro, handing her a datapad. No resistance. What's left of the population wants food, not revenge. They'll have it, Lyra said without looking. Get civilian relief ships in low orbit. Triage first, then reconstruction. He hesitated. Some of our allies believe we should make an example. She turned her eyes toward him. We are the example. As he walked away, Lyra's gaze lingered on the fractured land below. This war wasn't about conquest. It was about reclamation. And yet, every victory weighed heavier. Each enemy retreat left behind reminders of what the Council had taken, and what humanity, in exile, had learned to protect. In the data chamber deep inside the Vigilant Dawn, Nova shimmered into being. Her form had evolved once more. No longer purely human in appearance, but something caught between dimensions, layered and translucent, like a thought being rendered in real time. Before her stood Idris Vale and Dr. Yara Elzen, both weary from endless negotiation between compact factions. The Vexery artifact recovered from the expanse now hovered in a secure, magnetic field between them, glowing faintly. It's more than a message, Nova said. It's a map. The Vexery cradle wasn't the only one. There are others, scattered throughout deep space. Seeds left behind by civilizations the Council erased. Collectively, they form a network. A transit system? Elzen asked. A consciousness, Nova answered. Distributed, dormant. But if we reconnect enough of them, it could evolve into something far greater than any one AI. A shared intelligence. A guardian. Idris's eyes narrowed. And you would join with it? I would become part of it. Not its master. Not its slave. The room fell into silence. It wasn't just the idea of a greater intelligence that haunted them. It was the realization that the Council had known, that it had suppressed this knowledge out of fear. We must find the rest, Lyra said as she entered, having watched from the chamber's edge. Not just to win, but to prevent what comes after. What do you believe comes after? Idris asked her. Lyra's voice was steady. What always follows war, emptiness. If we don't fill that space with something better, something earned, then we're no different from them. A warning pulse blinked on the upper display. High mass readings. Energy distortions. Fold space ruptures blooming like fractures in glass. The Council's final fleet had arrived. From the void came the Judicator Array, a massive construct, not a ship, but a weaponized station the size of a moon, forged in the Alpha Crucis foundry. Its core pulsed with stolen stars, its hull shaped from the remains of vanished worlds. Around it, 30 Arxathi vessels formed a perimeter, escorted by mercenary factions bound by Council blood treaties. At its helm stood High Marshal Trinvel, encased in ceremonial voidplate, his voice broadcast across all systems in tones etched by synthetic augmentation. Your rebellion ends here. You've desecrated relics, allied with heretics, and consorted with forbidden intelligences. You are a threat not only to the Council, but to existence. Lyra stepped into the communications hub. We exist because you tried to erase us. We rose because you cast us out. And we are no longer alone. The signal cut. Within seconds, the compact moved. Every Allied fleet split into vector formations. Cade led the vanguard in the Obsidian Fawn, flanked by Idvan shield barges and Ikari spectral cruisers. The Zur activated their energy sails, bending radiation into blades. Even Milo, now assigned as liaison pilot to a critical comm relay, guided escape vectors for civilian vessels with steady hands and a voice comm beyond his ears. The Judicator Array charged. Beams of compressed starlight lanced out, carving through the vacuum in titanic arcs. One compact cruiser disintegrated on impact, but the others shifted formation, evading with microgravity thrusters, responding to Nova's guidance with inhuman precision. Raul Tessin activated the prototype phase cannon aboard the Vigilant Dawn. channeling resonance energy through a Vexery-converted core. When it fired, it tore a hole through 2 Arxathi destroyers and left a shockwave of ionized gas in its wake. But the array endured. "We can't break it from the outside," Elzen said through gritted teeth. "We have to disable the core." That task fell to a single, daring plan. Aboard a stealth corvette Lyra Idris, and a small strike team folded in close to the array's gravitational shadow, slipping into its venting zones as its weapons fired. Navigating its internal superstructure was like threading a needle through a living engine. Inside, Lyra saw what powered the core. It was a captive sun, not metaphor, not metaphorical, an actual star contained within a gravitic matrix, siphoned and stabilized. Around it spun thousands of consciousness shards, AI fragments, stolen and lobotomized, fed into the weapon's logic systems like sacrificial code. Nova's voice trembled. "Some of them are from me, ghosts of myself from the first exile. Trapped, repurposed." Lyra stood before the access terminal. "You don't have to do this," Idris said quietly. "If we shut down the core, the array will collapse. So will everything inside it. Then let it," Lyra said. She placed her hand on the terminal. "Nova, free them." The signal went out. Not a command, but an invitation. And they answered. The trapped shards lit up, one by one, then in waves, thousands of voices flickering through the array systems. Together, they overloaded the gravitic controls. The star pulsed once, then unraveled. From outside, it looked like a second sun, igniting in deep space. The Judicator array collapsed into itself in a glorious cascade of light and gravity, taking 6 council vessels with it. The rest of the fleet, leaderless, scattered. Victory was absolute, but the cost was deep. Lyra barely made it back aboard the Vigilant Dawn, pulled from the wreckage by Cade and Elzen. Idris had been wounded, and in the data streams, Nova had gone silent. Later, when the compact gathered on the edge of known space to reckon with what they had done, Lyra spoke for them all. "We were exiled," she said. "We were told we were broken, dangerous, unworthy, and maybe we were. But through fire, we became something more. Not just survivors, not just warriors, but stewards. The compact will not rule as the council did. We will protect. We will rebuild. We will remember." In the silence that followed, stars shimmered once more, not with fear nor conquest, but with possibility. And far beyond even those lights, in a place no map had ever marked, a new signal pulsed. Faint, familiar, Nova, alive, and watching.